Hello guys, now we are on the new series called the Attack on the King, and in the last series we saw weakening King's defenses, and now let us see how to attack the King which is not weakened. So this attacks are on unweakened positions of King. So the first game is between Rubinstein and Takeman. This game is a Queen's Gambit decline game. The game goes d4, d5, c4, e6, knight to c3, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, e3, knight bd7, knight f3, castle shot, queen c2, and b6, cd5, ed5, bishop d3, bishop b7, long castles, and c5, h4, c4, bishop f5, and rook to e8. Here g6 was better. G6 could have been played. Rook play, but black played rook e8. Bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, g4, and then bishop d6. As you can see, the computer shows, the engine shows g6 move, and now g5, knight to e4, h5, queen e7, and then rook dg1 and a6 here. a6 was a mistake. Instead he could have moved the king to h8. He could have played like this, then after g6 now, and now h6, and then like this. Then rook can come here, or even the rook can go to f8, and then knight check, if knight 10. So all these moves happened because black didn't move g6. Instead he moved bishop to d6. So that was the mistake by black. g6 should have been played earlier. And after rook dg1, a6, white has a great advantage in space on the king side. Most of his pieces are aimed directly or indirectly at black's king side. With the advantage, with the advanced g and h pawns as a spearhead. However, and here is the difference from the earlier chapter, that is weakening the king's defenses. On the black king side, the pawn formation is intact. His king side pawns are on their original squares, and black's powers of defense are greatly increased. So as a rule, an unweakened king position can be overcome only by means of sacrifices, which will demand more intricate and accurate calculation. This makes both assessment and plan more difficult. So now after bishop takes h7, so this sacrifice is calculated precisely. After king takes h7, now g6, g6 check. This is the logical continuation. But one may perhaps ask whether after f takes g6, h takes g6, king g8, the open h file is really worth a piece. This is the wrong question because Rubinstein did not intend the automatic h takes g6 check. Here h takes g6 check was not the idea. Here instead knight takes e4. After d takes e4, now knight g5 check was the idea, and then now after king to g8 and queen takes c4 check, and if at all king to h8 is played, then h takes g6 check. If at all this is played, then this comes. So then now after g6 check, the pawn is not taken, but king goes to g8. Now knight takes e4, d takes e4, and h6. If at all queen takes e4, then g takes f7 check is coming. After king takes, then there is a fork here. So after the move here, white played h6. This is the critical position on which the success of white's attack depends. It is one of the situations which white had visualized a few moves before and on which he passed judgment, partly after calculation and partly intuitively. Most great players rely partly on instinct when they play. Through the analysis of variation is also important. We will now attempt to outline the basis of this intuition. Let us try to establish whether there were solid grounds for the great master's decision that this position can be won for white. Now we come to minor features of which we must be aware, which constantly occur whenever the success of a sacrificial combination is at stake. The first point is that the vertical action of the rook on the g file. The second point is the vertical action of the rook on the h file. The third point is the horizontal action of a rook established at g7. So when a rook goes to g7, the horizontal action is one of the idea, and the horizontal action of the rook at h7. The fifth point is the power of a guarded pawn at g7 with the support of a rook on the h file. The sixth point is the possibility of the queen intervening at c4. Seventh point is possible action by the white queen along the b1 h7 diagonal if black captures at f3. If we wish to examine the position systematically, the first step is to take stock of material on either side. In this position, if material were equal, There could be no two opinions. White has no need for exact calculation to know that he can win in 10 to 20 moves. However, in reality, White is a piece down, and so he must be on the lookout for any possible chances of material gain to redress the balance. Now, after h6, and the analysis shows g takes f takes g6 was better, and now knight to h4, and then g5, and then e7 check. I mean h7 check, and king here. So if at all this is f3 is taken, then g takes, then king queen takes, and then h takes, queen. I think black is losing here. So in the actual game, after these moves f6, now h takes g7, e takes f3, rook h8 check, king takes g7, rook h7 check, king g8, and queen f5, c3, and then rook takes e7, and black resigned here. And let us see another variation. After h takes g7, if queen to e6 is played, then there will be rook h8 check, king takes g7, rook h7 check, and king to g8, and rook g h1, now f5, and knight to g5, and queen to d5, and queen to e2 with a decisive attack. So guys, I hope you would have enjoyed the game. It was very illustrative. I'll be meeting you in the next game. Thank you all.